Have you ever noticed how many people go through life without realizing the signs that God's wisdom places before them? They chase after tomorrow without living today, boast about what they do not possess, carry unnecessary burdens, and in the end, discover that their eyes are never satisfied. Proverbs 27 is like a mirror. It exposes our hidden flaws and, at the same time, points the way to true maturity. In this chapter, you will discover why you should not postpone the good you can do today, how envy destroys more than anger, and why the wounds of a faithful friend are worth more than the kisses of an enemy. You will understand the power of rebuke that saves, the weight of folly that crushes, and the priceless value of sincere counsel. Each verse is a jewel that exposes the difference between living in foolishness or walking in prudence. Here we learn that life is made of choices, to be a bird without a nest or to live with purpose, to accept empty praise or value corrections, to chase after the wind or to find true contentment in God. This is not just a chapter of advice. It is a survival manual for anyone who desires to live wisely in a world full of traps. Get ready, because Proverbs 27 will shake the way you see life, relationships, and even your very essence. Every word in this text is like iron sharpening iron. It may cause sparks, but it will sharpen your spirit and mold your character. Before we continue, if you enjoy our videos and feel that they have blessed your life, like and comment, even if it's just a amen. This makes a huge difference in helping this content reach more people and impact lives. If you are not subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share with your loved ones. This way, YouTube will get to know you better and suggest even more videos like this to help you on your faith journey. Help spread this message of faith and hope. Every like, comment, and share strengthens this work, which we do with all our love to build up your life. Together, we can reach even more hearts. Continuing. The first teaching of Proverbs 27 confronts us with a harsh yet liberating truth. Tomorrow does not belong to us. How many times have we postponed a word of encouragement, a financial help, or a gesture of kindness, believing there would be time later? Spiritual and emotional procrastination is one of humanity's greatest traps. Every day that passes without doing good is an opportunity lost that will never return. The biblical wisdom here is not just to live, but to act now. Living as if tomorrow is guaranteed is living in illusion. The reality is, we do not control the minutes ahead, not even our next breath. This should not lead us to fear, but to awareness. When we realize that time is a gift, our posture changes. The good we delay is often the good that never gets done, leaving others waiting for a gesture that will not come. Therefore, each moment must be seen as a call to act. Doing good is not something to push into the future. It is an urgent and transforming duty. When we help someone, we not only bless their life, but we nourish our own soul. The human heart finds meaning in giving, not in delaying. To postpone good is to postpone our own fulfillment. The delay can be fatal. Words spoken today can save a life, but tomorrow may be too late. A postponed visit can become a farewell missed forever. A withheld forgiveness can turn into a heavy burden carried eternally. To postpone is to risk missing the exact moment when God called us to be the answer in someone's life. This principle also applies to our dreams and personal callings. How many leave books unwritten, projects unstarted, or studies untouched, believing tomorrow will be more convenient? But tomorrow may never come. Procrastination is the graveyard of dreams, the resting place of ideas that never became reality. The wise know the right time to start is always now. And here lies a powerful detail. God moves in action, not in stagnation. While we wait for perfect conditions, He waits for our initiative. Taking the first step opens doors for opportunities to manifest. Heaven responds to movement, not to hesitation. Good done today plants seeds that will bear fruit tomorrow, but postponed good is like a seed never planted. Therefore, the wisdom of Proverbs 27 is crystal clear. Do not wait. Love today, forgive today, help today. Do not let the illusion of tomorrow rob you of the chance to transform the world around you. Tomorrow is uncertain, but today is in your hands as a divine gift. Those who live this truth discover a hidden power to create real impact in every moment, living fully and intentionally as if each day were the last. The second great lesson of Proverbs 27 touches on a common weakness, the need for self-promotion. In a world where people rush to display achievements, possessions, and talents, biblical wisdom calls us to humility. True greatness does not need to be loudly announced. It is naturally recognized. When someone insists on boasting, the impact is the opposite. Instead of admiration, it generates distrust. Those who truly possess value do not need to declare it. Actions speak louder. Self-promotion is often born of insecurity. Those who are unsure of their own worth feel the need to shout to be noticed. But forced recognition never generates true respect, only a fragile appearance that time will eventually undo. Wisdom teaches that it is better to let the fruit of our actions speak. After all, a tree does not need to announce it has good fruit. When taste proves it, being recognized by others is more powerful than exalting oneself. When praise comes from outside, it is spontaneous, and people trust its authenticity. But when it comes from oneself, it sounds like arrogance. The wise know patience is the key. In time, effort, and faithfulness build a solid reputation. Life is long enough to prove one's character, and those who walk in truth never need to invent narratives to stand out. This principle also protects against pride. Pride is a subtle poison that begins small, but grows until it destroys the heart. When someone gets used to exalting themselves, they lose the ability to listen, to learn, and to be corrected. Pride blinds, but humility opens doors. And humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking less about yourself. Letting others recognize our worth is an exercise in trusting the process. Jesus himself is the greatest example of this principle. He never needed to declare his greatness to be recognized. His works, miracles, and words revealed who he was. Even when people tried to diminish him, truth prevailed through his impact. This shows us that power does not lie in self-promotion, but in the constant testimony of our actions. Those who live quietly with excellence will be remembered forever. In practice, this means living so that our actions become our resume. A faithful worker does not need to beg for recognition because his discipline speaks for him. A just leader does not need to shout authority, for his conduct inspires natural respect. In every area of life, genuine value always finds witnesses, and time will reveal who is who. Thus, Proverbs 27 invites us to a life of authenticity and trust. Do not waste energy trying to convince others who you are. Just be. Recognition may take time, but when it comes, it carries far greater weight. Let others be your voice of validation while you remain firm in your mission. Those who trust in God know they do not need self-promotion, for in due time, the Father exalts the humble. There are burdens the body can bear, but there are weights that crush the soul. The sage of Proverbs 27 warns us that a foolish person's behavior can become heavier than carrying stones or enduring hard labor. A physical load, no matter how great, can be shared, organized, or lightened with rest. But living with someone who insists on folly, who rejects counsel, and who indulges in reckless choices is a weight that drains unseen strength. The weight of folly is a burden on the heart. This folly can manifest in many ways: careless words, reckless decisions, constant irresponsibility, or stubborn pride. Those who live close to such behavior feel as though they are dragging an endless stone. Energy that could be used to build must instead be spent cleaning up the consequences of another's foolishness. No wonder the scripture places folly above heavy stones. It consumes the spirit. The hardest part is that folly cannot be carried on behalf of another. Each person is responsible for their own choices, yet those nearby are often affected by the consequences. It is like rowing a boat while another person is drilling holes in the hull. No matter how hard you row, your effort is wasted. That is why the Bible warns us to choose our company wisely, for folly can delay the entire journey. We must not confuse bearing folly with abandoning those who err. There are times when love calls us to endure, to advise, and to pray for those who insist on foolish choices. The difference lies in not allowing their weight to destroy our own walk. Supporting is not the same as assuming responsibility. The balance is in extending a hand without carrying a burden that is not ours. Yet there is also a profound lesson here. Life is full of inevitable burdens. Work responsibilities, challenges, they are all part of maturity, but some burdens are optional, and living with constant folly is one of them. The wise discern who is ready to share the journey, because walking with the foolish can make life unbearable. At the same time, this premise calls us to self-reflection. Could it be that we ourselves have been a burden to others at some point? Recognizing our own folly is the first step to breaking cycles of suffering. When we accept correction, we stop being a weight and become a blessing to those around us. The fool does not perceive the burden they impose, but the wise strive to be light, just, and cooperative. Thus, Proverbs 27 gives us a practical key. Life will always be heavy, but it can become unbearable depending on whom we choose to carry beside us. Great wisdom is in discerning who is ready to share the road and who insists on adding to the load with their foolishness. When we understand this, we protect our energy, our purpose, and our peace. And that is one of the greatest proofs of spiritual maturity. The Bible clearly shows us that uncontrolled emotions cause great harm. Wrath, for example, is cruel. It strikes without thought and leaves trails of pain. Anger is overwhelming, consuming relationships, opportunities, and even health. But Proverbs 27 takes us further, warning that something even more dangerous exists: envy. Unlike wrath and anger, which erupt openly, envy is silent, hidden, and can corrode the heart without anyone noticing. Envy is deadly because it not only harms others, but also the one who harbors it. It is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die. It steals joy, robs gratitude, and prevents us from celebrating others' victories. While wrath explodes for a moment and anger eventually fades, envy settles like a cancer. It persists, fed in silence, and can turn the noblest heart into something bitter and hardened. This verse teaches that the greatest danger is not external enemies, but what we allow to dwell within. Envy is destructive because it keeps us in constant comparison, convincing us that others' happiness is a threat to our own. The envious never rest, for their mind is consumed with measuring, competing, and coveting what is not theirs. This enslaves them in a cycle of endless frustration. What is more alarming is that envy does not only destroy the envious, it can also ruin relationships. How many friendships have ended because someone could not bear another's success? How many homes have been broken because envy crept in, turning love into rivalry? That is why the text places envy as more dangerous than wrath and anger together. It undermines trust, erodes respect, and slowly destroys bonds. The cure for envy lies in contentment. When we learn to value what we already have and trust God's timing and purpose, we no longer see others as threats, but as inspiration. A grateful heart is immune to envy, for it finds joy in its blessings. This is not about complacency, but about inner peace. Gratitude aligns our perspective and frees us from constant comparison. Another powerful antidote is genuine celebration. When we learn to applaud others' victories, we break envy's cycle within us. Celebrating someone else's success creates space for us to live our own achievements without resentment. A heart that desires good for others will never be trapped by invisible chains. Those who celebrate others open the door to be celebrated in due time. Thus, Proverbs 27 gives us a powerful warning. Envy is a silent but lethal enemy. If wrath and anger cause visible damage, envy destroys in the shadows. Our task is to guard the heart, cultivate gratitude, and practice celebration. Only then will we live free, strengthened, and ready to advance without carrying the corrosive weight of comparison. Whoever conquers envy discovers true freedom of the soul. Few things in life are as misunderstood as correction. To many, rebuke sounds like rejection or attack, but the wisdom of Proverbs 27 shows the opposite. Open rebuke is a sign of genuine love. It is far easier to give empty praise than to confront someone with the truth. But those who truly love do not fear speaking what can save, correct, and redirect. Praise may flatter the ego, but rebuke molds character. A true friend is not the one who always agrees, but the one who dares to confront us when we are on the wrong path. This courage is born from love, not judgment. After all, those who care prefer to see us hurt momentarily by truth than destroyed permanently by lies. Empty praise is treacherous because it soothes the conscience without transformation. Honest correction is like surgery. It hurts, but it heals. Open rebuke also reveals transparency. There are no hidden motives, no gossip behind the scenes. What needs to be said is spoken face to face, clearly and respectfully. This builds trust because we know that person does not act in duplicity. The world is full of flatterers who say what we want to hear, but few speak what we need to hear. Those few are treasures. It is important, however, that rebuke be done with wisdom. Truth spoken without love can wound more than heal. The secret lies in balancing firmness with compassion, clarity with empathy. When someone corrects us with love, even if it hurts, we sense deep down that it was meant to build us up. This is why rebuke becomes one of the greatest proofs of friendship and care. The opposite is also true. Those who avoid correction for fear of losing a relationship do not love as they should. Silence in the face of error can be as destructive as the error itself. How many have fallen into ruin because people around them chose convenience over involvement? True love does not remain silent. It intervenes at the right time. Rebuke, therefore, is an act of spiritual courage. It requires placing another's good above our own comfort. It means facing the possibility of being misunderstood. Yet the wise will recognize, perhaps only in the future, that correction was a seed of life. Many only realize the value of rebuke after reaping the fruit of change. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches us to rethink our posture toward correction. We should thank more and resist less when someone calls us to truth. Likewise, we must have the courage to rebuke those we love when necessary. This is more valuable than 1,000 empty praises. For in the end, those who correct us in love prove how much they truly care. This verse teaches us one of the most paradoxical truths of life. Sometimes wounds heal and kisses kill. The wounds caused by a friend are the result of honest words, necessary rebukes, and acts of love that confront our errors. They hurt at the moment, but they heal over time. On the other hand, an enemy's kisses may be sweet, but they are poisoned with deceit, interest, or manipulation. Appearances deceive, but love proves itself in sincerity. The faithful wounds of a friend are like a surgeon's scalpel, sharp, painful, but essential to save life. True friendship does not fear conflict when it is for the other's good. Words spoken in love often sting more than flattery, but they lead to growth. The wise know that being corrected by someone who loves them is far safer than being praised by someone who despises them in secret. The danger of enemy kisses lies in disguise. Many hide their hostility behind charming gestures, false compliments, or fake closeness. These are the people who applaud when we fall and who pretend to support us only to later betray us. A kiss on the cheek can hide the sharpest knife. That is why discernment is so essential in relationships. Not everything that looks like affection is genuine love. This proverb teaches us to value truth more than comfort. A sincere friend who corrects us proves to be a greater treasure than 100 who only flatter. Many fall into ruin because they choose to surround themselves with flatterers instead of people who love enough to confront them. The path of wisdom is to appreciate wounds that heal more than kisses that destroy. we also need to apply this principle personally. Are our words wounds that heal or kisses that deceive? Do we truly care for our friends, even when it means confronting them? Or do we prefer to remain silent to avoid conflict? Faithfulness in friendship is measured not by the absence of wounds, but by the presence of truth spoken in love. Another point here is gratitude. Many only recognize the value of faithful wounds years later, when they realize those words spared them from greater destruction. We must learn to thank those who dared to confront us, for their courage shaped our lives. The wounds of a friend may leave marks, but they are marks of love. Thus, Proverbs 27 shows us that loyalty is not always gentle. Sometimes it is sharp, but wounds of truth are seeds of life, while kisses of lies are seeds of death. The wise discern the difference and choose to keep around them those who wound in order to heal, not those who kiss in order to destroy. Here we find a profound reflection on human desire and satisfaction. Hunger changes perception. What is bitter to one can be sweet to another, depending on their state of need. A satisfied person despises even honey, the sweetest food of the time. But the starving person gratefully eats even what is bitter. This proverb reminds us that lack sharpens value, while excess dulls appreciation. This principle applies to much more than food. It applies to life itself. Those who live in abundance often lose the ability to value the small things. But those who have gone through scarcity learn to recognize blessings even in the smallest details. Gratitude is born from hunger, while ingratitude often flourishes in abundance. The text also speaks of spiritual hunger. Those who thirst for God's presence will receive even the hardest word of correction as a feast. But the satisfied, who think they need nothing, despise the word even when it is sweet as honey. The difference lies not in the content, but in the condition of the heart. Hunger makes us receptive. Fullness can make us proud. In relationships, the same applies. Someone deprived of love values the smallest gesture of affection, while someone accustomed to abundance of care may ignore or despise it. Hunger reveals needs, and needs shape perception. That is why the same situation can be perceived so differently by different people. There is also a warning here. Abundance can make us indifferent. Just as the satisfied reject honey, those who live in comfort may lose compassion for those in need. Hunger keeps us human, sensitive, and grateful. Satisfaction without gratitude generates arrogance, while hunger generates humility. On the other hand, hunger can also be a danger when uncontrolled. Those who are desperate may accept what is bitter without discernment, risking harm. That is why balance is essential. Spiritual hunger must be directed toward the right source, God. Only He satisfies without poisoning. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches that hunger defines perception. The wise cultivate spiritual hunger even in times of abundance, so they never lose sensitivity to what truly matters. The fool, in contrast, despises blessings because he thinks he has enough. The key is to remain hungry for God and grateful for every small sweetness life offers. This image from Proverbs 27 is both poetic and piercing. A bird without a nest is vulnerable, directionless, and exposed to predators. In the same way, a person without a place of belonging, without purpose or without roots, becomes restless and fragile. Wandering without a spiritual, emotional, or relational home leads to a life of instability. Home here symbolizes identity, security, and refuge. The nest is more than a physical place. It represents the sense of purpose and direction God gives us. A bird that abandons its nest loses its reference point. Likewise, those who stray from their calling, their faith, or their principles end up adrift, moving from one place to another, never finding true rest. Purpose is the nest of the human soul. A wandering person is often admired for their freedom, but in truth, they carry within them the weight of not belonging. They may go far, but they never find rest. Like the bird that flies without a destination, they are exhausted by constant search. Restlessness becomes their companion, and emptiness their inheritance. This proverb also teaches the importance of roots. The one who despises their origin, their family, or their faith weakens themselves. The nest does not imprison, it prepares for flight. A bird is only strong enough to soar because one day it had a nest. Likewise, our values, relationships, and faith are the bases from which we grow. There is also a warning here about relationships. Those who abandon their closest ones easily may also abandon others. Loyalty is tested in belonging. A person without roots is like a bird without a nest, unstable and unreliable. Stability in life requires a home, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual. Yet this proverb is not a condemnation, but an invitation. Even if someone has wandered, there is always the possibility of return. Just as the prodigal son found his way back, anyone who has strayed can rebuild their nest. Wisdom is not in never leaving, but in recognizing the value of returning to where life truly flourishes. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches us that wandering without belonging leads to emptiness. The nest symbolizes purpose, faith, and true community. Those who despise it may fly far, but never find rest. Those who value it discover security, identity, and strength to soar higher. For in the end, every flight begins at home. This proverb reveals the incomparable value of sincere advice. Perfume may delight the senses, but wise words spoken at the right time nourish the soul. A true friend's counsel goes beyond appearances. It penetrates the heart, bringing direction and relief. While perfumes fade, sincere advice endures, leaving a lasting mark on life. The Bible shows us that friendship is not only about companionship, but also about guidance that preserves. Counsel given by a friend is precious because it comes from love, not from interest. Unlike strangers who may offer advice without understanding our reality, friends speak from closeness and empathy. They see what others cannot, and because they love us, they tell us what we need to hear, not what we want to hear. That is why such counsel is more valuable than luxury or wealth. Perfume symbolizes pleasure, but counsel represents transformation. While perfume touches the surface, wise words touch the depths. A phrase spoken at the right time can prevent tragedies, heal wounds, or open new opportunities. The scent of perfume may last for hours, but advice from a true friend can echo for years. The wise never despise such a gift. This verse also warns us to discern which voices we allow into our hearts. Not all advice leads to life. The counsel of a friend is sweet because it is genuine, but false advice is bitter poison, disguised as sweetness. That is why friendship and trust walk together. The wise carefully choose their counselors, knowing that life can be shaped by the words they heed. There is also a responsibility here. Are we offering counsel like perfume, or are our words heavy like stones? True friendship requires courage to advise with love and wisdom. Silence when a word is needed can be negligence, while advice given at the right time can be salvation. Friends who love do not remain quiet when they see danger. The sweetness of counsel also comes from the fact that it is shared. In the darkest moments, when perfume and wealth are useless, it is words of comfort, direction, and encouragement that sustain. A heart that listens to advice finds strength to keep moving forward. The counsel of a friend is a reminder that we are not alone in our journey. Thus, Proverbs 27 exalts the power of wise friendships. Perfume delights the senses for a moment, but a friend's counsel delights the soul for eternity. The wise treasure these words more than any material possession. For sincere counsel is not only advice, it is proof of love, partnership, and divine care expressed through human relationships. This proverb highlights the strength of lasting bonds. A loyal friend is a priceless treasure, worth more than a relative who is distant and absent in times of need. Relationships built on loyalty endure storms, while superficial bonds break at the first challenge. That is why the Bible instructs us not to abandon the friend we have, or the friend of our family. These bonds are legacies that carry protection and blessing. The difference between A friend and a distant brother lies in presence. Blood ties may unite, but distance and neglect weaken. A loyal friend is the one who shows up when no one else does, who supports when others turn their backs. In difficult times, their presence becomes a refuge, more valuable than the title of family without true connection. This proverb also teaches us about gratitude. The friend of our Father is part of a history that extends beyond us. They carry stories, loyalty, and a shared past that must not be discarded. To abandon such bonds is to despise a heritage of care that may one day sustain us. Loyalty is not built in a day. It is cultivated over generations. There is also a principle here about constancy. In a world where relationships are often disposable, the Bible teaches us the opposite. Value what has been proven, honor those who have walked with you, and keep alive the bonds that time has tested. Those who know how to be loyal are always rewarded with loyalty. This proverb challenges us to rethink our priorities. How many value wealth and position but neglect people who truly matter? The wise invest in genuine friendships, for they know that one faithful friend is worth more than 1,000 acquaintances. Friendship is a form of wealth that neither time nor crisis can steal. Furthermore, this principle reflects God's heart. He's a God of covenant, not abandonment. To remain loyal to a friend is to reflect his character, which never forsakes those he loves. When we honor friendships and family bonds, we align with divine values. For God himself calls us his friends and proves his loyalty eternally. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches us that loyalty is wealth and betrayal is poverty. Do not forsake the friend who has walked with you, nor the one who supported your family. In the end, you may find that the true treasures of life are not in possessions, but in relationships forged in loyalty and faithfulness. This proverb reminds us that our choices impact not only us, but those around us. When we act with wisdom, we bring joy to those who love us, parents, mentors, and friends who care for our path. At the same time, wisdom silences mockers who expect our downfall. Life is not lived in isolation. Our posture either builds those who support us or fuels the mouths of those who mock. When someone acts with prudence and integrity, they honor those who invested in them. Parents feel proud, mentors feel rewarded, and friends rejoice. Every wise decision is a testimony of gratitude to those who guided us. It is as if each choice says, "Your efforts were not in vain." Thus, wisdom becomes a legacy that honors our roots. On the other hand, foolishness gives strength to mockers. When someone stumbles because of lack of wisdom, scoffers find reason to laugh, criticize, and despise. Their voices grow stronger, not because they are right, but because our lack of discernment gave them ground. That is why wisdom is also a shield. It closes the mouths of those who wait for our fall. This verse reveals the double power of wisdom. It builds joy and dismantles ridicule. Acting with discernment is not only beneficial to us, it is an act of justice toward those who love us and trust us. The wise know they carry responsibility beyond themselves. Their posture influences communities, families, and generations. Another aspect here is motivation. Many desire to silence their enemies with revenge, but the Bible teaches us that wisdom itself is the greatest answer. To live with discernment is to give no room for mockery. The fool responds to criticism with anger. The wise respond with life choices that speak louder than words. This proverb also calls us to responsibility. Do our actions bring joy or shame to those who love us? Each decision can become a reason for celebration or a cause for grief. The wise are careful, knowing that their lives are mirrors that reflect not only themselves, but all who walk alongside them. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches us that wisdom is never solitary. It generates joy for those who love us and silences those who oppose us. Every wise step is a seed of honor, while every foolish step feeds the voices of scorn. The challenge is clear. Choose to walk with wisdom and bring delight to those who believe in you, leaving mockers without a word. This proverb teaches us one of the greatest differences between wisdom and foolishness: discernment of danger. The prudent recognize signs of risk and protect themselves, while the naive ignore warnings and pay the price. Life is full of signs. God speaks through circumstances, intuition, and counsel. The wise pay attention, the fool dismisses them. The result is that prudence preserves life, while recklessness destroys it. The prudent are not fearful, but cautious. They know that foresight is not weakness, but intelligence. Hiding does not mean cowardice, but protection until the right moment. Noah built the ark before the rain fell. Joseph stored grain before the famine struck. This is prudence, preparing today for what may come tomorrow. The naive, however, live only for the moment. They despise preparation, ignore warnings, and underestimate risks. Their downfall is not sudden. It is the result of accumulated neglect. Many suffer not because they were unlucky, but because they chose to walk blindly where signs of danger were clear. Naivety may appear to be freedom, but it is disguised slavery. This proverb also shows that wisdom is practical. Being prudent is not about having mystical visions, but about observing reality carefully. Those who refuse to learn from others' mistakes often end up repeating them. The wise hide because they understand that life is not a game. Each choice has consequences. The principle here also applies spiritually. The prudent protect their hearts from harmful influences, avoid unnecessary temptations, and do not expose themselves to what could bring them down. The naive, in contrast, think they are immune, exposing themselves until they fall. Prudence is a shield for those who value holiness and integrity. Another lesson is that prudence is an act of love. Those who protect themselves also protect their family and community. The reckless, on the other hand, drag many with them into destruction. To be prudent is to recognize responsibility beyond oneself. It is a sign of maturity and wisdom that blesses generations. Thus, Proverbs 27 shows us that prudence is not optional, it is vital. Those who discern danger and hide protect their lives, but those who ignore the obvious suffer. The wise are not those who walk blindly into challenges, but those who know when to advance and when to wait. Prudence saves time, energy, and even life. This proverb deals with financial and relational wisdom. In biblical times, guaranteeing someone else's debt meant risking everything. Here the sage warns, if someone has been reckless enough to pledge security for a stranger, take collateral, for they have already placed themselves in danger. The principle is clear. Do not assume responsibility for what is not yours. For folly in financial decisions always produces consequences. Guaranteeing for a stranger is dangerous because you have no control over their character, discipline, or responsibility. It is like placing your future in someone else's hands. When they fail, you pay. This proverb exposes the danger of misplaced generosity, where emotions lead to commitments without discernment. Wisdom calls us to love, but also to guard ourselves. This teaching is not about lack of compassion, but about responsibility. Helping someone in need is different from assuming their debts. True love helps within its capacity, but does not become enslaved by another's recklessness. The wise know that a good heart without boundaries is a trap that leads to ruin. There is also a spiritual dimension here. How many assume responsibilities God never gave them? They carry burdens that are not theirs, trying to solve problems that belong to others. Just as in finances, this produces exhaustion. Wisdom is knowing what belongs to us and what does not. To take on what is not ours is to expose ourselves unnecessarily. The proverb's advice to take collateral is not cruelty, but a reminder that responsibility must have consequences. Those who act without prudence must learn through discipline. Protecting oneself does not mean a lack of love. It means respecting order. Even in relationships, healthy boundaries are necessary to preserve peace and stability. This principle also reminds us that trust must be earned. Offering security for someone untested is inviting risk. We are called to be generous, but never naive. Protecting ourselves from others' irresponsibility is part of wisdom, just as much as practicing compassion. Balance is the mark of the wise. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches us that generosity without discernment is self-destruction. Love with wisdom blesses. Love without boundaries destroys. Protect yourself, respect limits, and do not take on what does not belong to you. In this way, your resources and energy will be preserved for what truly matters. At first glance, this proverb seems strange. How can a blessing be mistaken for a curse? The lesson is profound. Even something good can lose its value if done at the wrong time, in the wrong way, or without sensitivity. A blessing shouted early in the morning, waking others abruptly, becomes annoyance instead of encouragement. The principle is clear. Intention without wisdom becomes a burden. Here, the Bible teaches us about the importance of timing. Words are powerful, but when spoken without considering the moment, they can harm instead of build. Just as food has its right season, so does speech. Wisdom is not only knowing what to say, but also when to say it. This verse also reveals the need for empathy. Speaking without considering the other person's condition shows a lack of love. A blessing shouted at dawn is more about the speaker's need to be noticed than about true care for the neighbor. Love is not just action. It is action aligned with sensitivity. Spiritually, this reminds us of zeal without knowledge. Many, in their enthusiasm, impose words, advice, or prayers at the wrong time. Instead of blessing, they suffocate. True faith does not force. It edifies with balance. Even prayer, when done without wisdom, can become weight instead of relief. This proverb also calls us to examine the way we communicate. Are our words building or suffocating? Are we blessing with love, or are we seeking recognition under the guise of blessing? Sensitivity transforms intention into edification. Without it, even the best words lose power. The wise understand that silence is sometimes more powerful than words. Waiting for the right moment can make all the difference. A blessing spoken at the right time becomes unforgettable. The same blessing spoken out of time can become irritation. Discernment is the key. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches us that wisdom is not only in what we do, but in how and when we do it. Even a blessing loses its value when it lacks sensitivity. The wise learn to weigh time, tone, and context before speaking. For love is not loud. It is wise, precise, and edifies in the right measure. This proverb uses a vivid image to describe the draining effect of continuous strife within the home. Just as the constant dripping of a leaky roof irritates and wears down those inside, so does living with a quarrelsome spirit corrode peace and joy. The home is meant to be a refuge of rest, but when contention dominates, it becomes a battlefield. The imagery emphasizes not a single outburst, but the ceaseless nature of constant conflict. The dripping water is not destructive all at once, but gradually. Each drop seems harmless, yet the repetition wears away patience and damages the structure over time. Likewise, constant arguments and disputes do not always explode in dramatic moments, but they slowly corrode affection, trust, and harmony. This shows that the most dangerous conflicts are often the persistent daily ones. This proverb is not limited to wives. It symbolizes any person who continually fuels contention. A quarrelsome husband, child, or colleague can become just as unbearable. The teaching points to the spirit of contention itself, which transforms coexistence into exhaustion. The wise discern that the true enemy is not the person, but the constant flow of destructive words. The solution lies in cultivating peace. A calm word has the power to stop anger, while harsh words multiply strife. Silence, patience, and gentleness are tools that restore harmony. It is not always necessary to win arguments. Often the wisest choice is to preserve peace. Those who know how to choose their battles wisely protect the sanctuary of their home. This verse also invites us to self-examination. How often are we the dripping that irritates others with our complaints, criticisms, or insistence on being right? Recognizing this helps us change our posture and seek to be builders of peace rather than sources of conflict. Wisdom begins by identifying the constant drip within ourselves. Thus, Proverbs 27 teaches us that the greatest reflection is not in water or glass, but in the heart. If we desire a life of peace and honor, we must cultivate an inner life aligned with God's wisdom. For just as water never lies about the face it reflects, the heart never lies about the essence it carries. This final proverb of the chapter confronts us with the insatiable nature of desire. Just as Sheol and destruction never cease receiving, human eyes are never content. There is always something more to want, to acquire, to achieve. Desire, if uncontrolled, becomes an endless well, consuming without ever being filled. Insatiability is the great plague of the human heart. This verse unmasks the illusion of satisfaction. No matter how much one gains, there will always be something missing. Today's victory soon becomes yesterday's story, and the eyes seek something new. The more we feed uncontrolled desire, the hungrier it becomes. Like death, it never says enough. The danger of insatiability is that it leads to destruction. Those who are never satisfied sacrifice relationships, values, and even health in pursuit of more. What begins as ambition turns into slavery. The eyes, when unguarded, lead the heart into ruin. Envy, greed, and lust are the fruits of this endless hunger. The only antidote is contentment. The Apostle Paul declared that he had learned to be content in every situation, whether in abundance or in need. Contentment is not resignation but freedom. It is the ability to rejoice in what we have without being enslaved by what we lack. Gratitude is the key that silences insatiable desire. This verse also teaches us to discipline the eyes. What we gaze upon shapes what we desire. Eyes fixed on comparison and covetousness will never rest. Eyes that learn to see God's blessings in the present find peace. Vision determines satisfaction. Spiritually, only God can fill the bottomless void of human desire. Nothing on earth can fully satisfy. Wealth, pleasure, and power all eventually fade. But those who fix their eyes on God discover a source that never runs dry. In Him, the restless heart finds rest and the insatiable eyes find peace. Thus, Proverbs 27 closes with a sober warning. Human desire is endless, like death itself. But the wise find rest in contentment and peace in God. For only He can satisfy the eyes and fill the soul. To chase the wind is endless frustration, but to rest in Him is eternal fulfillment. After walking through the powerful verses of Proverbs 27, we realize that true wisdom is not found in beautiful words, but in practical choices. This chapter shows us that prudence protects, faithful friendships strengthen, and the heart reveals our essence. It warns us against envy, folly, and unending quarrels that consume more than storms or heavy stones ever could. The key is to live intentionally, valuing today, welcoming correction, caring for relationships, and cultivating contentment. The insatiable will never find rest, but those who trust in God discover peace in every season of life. The message is clear. Either we let wisdom shape us, or we are consumed by the emptiness of folly. Like water reflecting a face, this chapter forces us to look within. Who are we really? What do our eyes desire? How do we treat our friends, our family, and those entrusted to us? Proverbs 27 is not just an ancient text, it is a daily call to live with humility, wisdom, and purpose. In the end, one truth remains. The one who tends the fig tree will enjoy its fruit, and the one who serves faithfully will be honored. Proverbs 27 invites us to such a life, to live so wisely and faithfully that those who love us rejoice, and mockers are left without a word. The choice is ours. Chase the wind of desire or embrace the eternal wisdom that leads to life.